Hello and welcome back to playing Pauper. This week's deck is Abzan Existence. It's a control deck that continues recurring creatures from the graveyard that are problematic for the opponent until it can finally take control of the board for the final time and win. Let's look at how the deck works. The deck gets its name from the card Tortured Existence, which we play the full 4 of, which allows us to pay a mana, choose and discard a creature card from our hand, and return a creature card from our graveyard to hand. So effectively exchange a creature card between hand and graveyard. Combined with dredge creatures such as Golgari Brownscale and Stinkweed Imp, we can use the dredge mechanic to make sure we draw a creature each turn, which we can then cash in for a creature card in our graveyard, being able to reuse any card that we want over and over again. So what creature cards do we want to use over and over again? Here are some of our choices. The most notable is the full 4 Spore Frog. If you have a Golgari Brownscale in the graveyard and a Spore Frog on the table, you can fog every single turn for the rest of the game until you run out of cards in the library. You cast the frog, you sacrifice it on your opponent's turn so you don't take any combat damage. You dredge back your Golgari Brownscale to hand. You discard it to Tortured Existence, returning Spore Frog, cast Spore Frog, and start all over again. So these Spore Frogs buy us a lot of time, and that time is used to find something like Crypt Rats. Crypt Rats is another thing that we can recur. The mana base is slanted in such a way to provide as many black sources as possible so that we can activate this for a large amount. We can use the Crypt Rats to clear the board and then reestablish our own creatures, and every time our opponent gets ahead, we just pull the Crypt Rats back from the graveyard and do it again. We also have Fume Spitter as a small, repeatable removal spell, and 3 Grave Scrabbler, which is a great way to get card advantage when you're using Tortured Existence. You discard the Grave Scrabbler to Existence, then you also pay its madness cost, and then for the cost of 1 black, you've been able to put a 2/2 into play and also return 2 creature cards from your graveyard to hand. We also have some other small synergies in the deck. Carrion Feeder can sacrifice things from the battlefield so that we can get them into the graveyard and start recurring them. We can also use it to sacrifice a Mesmeric Fiend with the trigger on the stack so that they never get their card back. We also have the full 4 Core Skyfisher and 4 Abundant Growth. Abundant Growth helps fix our mana, and Core Skyfisher takes advantage of that Abundant Growth as a cheap, permanent to return to hand that generates card advantage when we get to replay it. We also have additional graveyard synergies. Vestal of Nascency and Cedar Wayfinder are great ways to fill the graveyard and remain even on card advantage. An Auramancer is a good way to get back a Vestal of Nascency or a Tortured Existence that ends up in the bin. Out of the sideboard, we have some cheap removal spells for faster decks, including 3 Deadweight and 2 Fume Spitter. Disenchant effects with the 3 Quizali Pridemage. An additional way to get back our Tortured Existence if we expect our opponent to have a lot of naturalized effects of their own in Auramancer. And we can also attack the opponent's hand with 2 Duress, 2 Augur of Skulls, and 2 extra Mesmeric Fiend. So that's it for this version of the deck. Tortured Existence is a very good build-around card, and there are many different versions of Tortured Existence decks out there in Pauper. In any case, if you kind of like the idea of the deck but don't like exactly how it's put together, there are definitely variations out there for you. Anyway, that's it for the deck tech, so let's get to the matches and see how we do.